Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Spotter. I believe we're on episode 22 now. I'm kind of treating this year as a season 2 unofficially, but realistically, it's just straight installments. Obviously, with this year, I wanted to take, after my little break, I wanted to take this as more of a journey on through my therapy sessions and basically what I'm learning about myself, what I'm wanting to share with you all, in the hope that it helps other people. Because as we know, this is the podcast that is for those that never ask for help, but need it deep down. That's what I always stick by on this podcast and hope that always basically sounds true, rings true. So, for that reason, I want to make sure that I'm doing the work on myself internally so that I can be there for other people as well. And, it wouldn't be right for me to, actually put aside my issues and the things that I need to address, whilst also talking to other people as well. So I need to make sure I'm doing that and being that person that I pride others to be, making sure that you ask for help when you need it, you speak out, you talk, you listen equally, but just take action, please do. Basically, as we go through these sessions now, I say sessions like I'm a therapist. Oh my God, I've had 2 sessions in therapy and I'm talking like I'm a therapist. I am not, by the way, and I don't plan to be. I am learning a lot of interesting things, though. I've only had 2 hours so far, or like 2.5. I'm learning a lot. And as I was going to say, like, I'm going through these episodes now, and I want to make sure that I'm documenting as much of my, I guess, healing journey, self-realization journey, learning journey, all of it bunched up in one massive mess for myself. I'm the mess. And hoping that I can make sense of this, not my hair, by the way. And for anyone that's listening and not watching, I was pointing to my head, meaning my brain, because it's so complex. Honestly, it's mental. Like, I'm not going to delve into it now, but I have, and this is a part of what I want to talk about in maybe future episodes, but I have such an overactive brain, and I really do struggle to switch it off. And people closest to me will be able to confirm that, because I'm always coming out with new things that I want to do, come up with ideas. Trouble is with me, I can't like focus on just one thing. I struggle. So actually working in tech really does help. Like, my career is a massive, help for the way that my brain works, because I am needed in my role basically to be very structured with my day and ensure certain things are ticked off by the end of the day. And that works perfectly for me because I have a very goal-orientated brain, even though I struggle myself to finish things that I set out myself. If I know that other people are reliant on me, or clients, for example, then I'm very much to the point, get my work done, and that's it. I like ticking things. I like having that visual representation. I wonder if any of you are the same as well. I guess that's about like learning types and brain types and things like that, but the way we are, the way we're wired. But yeah, I just struggle to switch off. But what I was trying to get at is, prior to this, I had another idea flood my brain, and it is one that I am going to commit to, and I have thought about doing in the past many a times, and it's one that would probably sit very close to my heart. So watch this space; it will tie very nicely, and I imagine with the podcast at some point. And again, this podcast is a host of many ideas I've had, but this is one that I wanted to make sure that I committed to last year, because it's been a burning desire for so long. And with that in mind, we will delve into some of the things I wanted to talk about today. First off, it sounds like I'm going to do it like a sponsorship thing. I'm not doing that. The only sponsorships we'll get on this podcast are things that are actually relevant to what I'm trying to promote, which is first and foremost mental health, and especially mental health for men, making sure that we have space to talk, space to breathe, space to listen, and space to be, really. So yeah, sponsorships are a way off. If anyone does want to sponsor the podcast, please do, but please bear in mind that, bear in mind that I'm not going to just accept anyone. But you have heard. That's my proposition. But yeah, on that, I had some interesting conversations with people that I would like to get on. So yeah, again, I will say this: if anyone wants to reach out, get on the podcast, talk about something they're passionate about. If there's something mental health related, something that you're going through, something that you think would help other people, please do get in touch, because the more the merrier. These episodes are obviously, primarily me talking about my experiences in life and the things I'm going through, in the hope that it helps you. But please please do get in touch if you want to get on, talk, you feel compelled to talk about something, and you want to add to this spotting movement. Spotting, helping people, not just in the gym, but throughout life. But I do have a couple of exciting guests coming on soon. I think exciting anyway. So yeah, basically, what I want to talk about second therapy session is basically reaffirming to me, and this is one of the big things that I'm realizing about myself is I've got very, I'm not really self-destructive, but I've got a repetitive, I guess, nature. And what I mean by that is when I make some improvements in my life that I need to make, and take this as an example. Okay, so I've recently, from July last year, I say recent, that's kind of recent, but July last year, I compressed my working hours for my career down into 4 days. So 7 till 4:30, Monday to Thursday, so that I can pursue my online coaching and hopefully future personal training business, Jake James Coaching. And initially, perfect, only losing 2.5 hours across my working week, 35 hours across 4 days. And then that 5th day gets allocated to coaching. First thing I decided to do after maybe a week or two, I got in contact with a brilliant club. About starting kickboxing. So long story short, ended up filling the 9 till 10 slot in my morning with kickboxing for an hour every week. And then second part to that is I would then go and do things like my food shop straight after. And then I would end up getting roped into other jobs internally in the house, not from anyone, but like things that I would then do here. I would go and see people. I would then fit in things that I haven't been able to fit in the week elsewhere on that day. I would then do my block of online coaching, say I get 2-3 hour work block done. Actually, let's rewind. Can we remove work block as a term? I can't stand it. Just say you're working or you're doing something like work block 1 achieved, work block 2, work block 3. I just don't like that. Can we remove that, please? I really hate it. Just say I'm doing something or I'm working. Why do we have to put work block? What? Because then you've got your lunch followed up by, I don't know. Hey, just that's my issue out the window. All right. I work on my my own acceptance of that term, I guess. But so basically, long story short, I ended up, yes, doing the work on that day, but I ended up filling, and I've ended up filling up my Friday, which is supposed to be just for my online coaching. I filled it up with other things. And then I end up finishing the day, looking back, thinking like, I could have done so much more of that day. I wanted to do this. I wanted to do those 2 other things. And then those things end up creeping into my Saturday. But then I realize I can't do those things on my Saturday because I have my scheduled leg session every week. And then obviously I will have typically social events. I will have, things like movies, go and see friends, family events. So all of that stuff tends to happen on Saturdays. And then on a Sunday, and time with my partner, that is always carved out. So Sunday mornings, typically our time, walks, coffees, go and explore somewhere, go for a meal in the morning, or we might have a meal on Saturday evening. But that time is all obviously very important to me. And I'll always, that's like a priority. But then after that, usually cardio, go on and have a walk. I'll end up doing jobs at the house again that I need to put off earlier in the week. Online admin. Then I'll do things like, I'll try and get in things like reading a book. I read a couple of chapters of a book. I'll try and fit in my coursework for my PT, my PT course. And then I will try and, fit and I'm making this a priority now. But what I'm trying to get at is I have a tendency to do the right thing and then make that 10 times more difficult to achieve other things. So like I'll make the correct step forward in order to alleviate my time to do the things I want to do. So that was a positive move about me cutting down my work hours to pursue my side hustle. But I end up filling it with other things because in my head, I'm like, right, well, you've got more time now. You can do more things. So I end up sleeping less, widening my mornings up, widening my evenings up, and trying to cram other things in that perhaps don't necessarily need to be done on those days, perhaps could wait, things that maybe aren't as much of a priority as self-development. And that is what I am lacking, and not lacking, but like I'm struggling to prioritize is my self-development. I'm actually just putting, I think other people's, I guess, needs, wants ahead of my own. And I'm realizing that now through therapy. I'm going to have to remove this cushion because it's really pressing on me. Sorry about that. I'm realizing that now on my journey throughout therapy, I'm putting other people's needs, or I tend to put other people's needs before my own, which again, very good thing to do, very good to encourage that we help other people, but I think not at the detriment of our own development, our own mental health. Of course, I want to push for people to be the best version of themselves. I want to push for people to learn, be better, and also, look after themselves. But I'm not doing it myself, and I'm going through this same pattern every year or every 6 months of I'll do something good, I'll alleviate time. Like, for example, I finished my level 2, and then I had big plans to crack on with my level 3, put that off at the start of the year. So I had to, in order to curb that, I've had to, actively put together like an 8-week schedule that I aim to stick to. And I've already missed some of the gaps on that. I've missed some times that I should have done some studying on. But then on the flip side, on Wednesday evening, I scheduled out some time to finish a unit, and I did that. And I was very happy with that because I ticked it off. I was able to highlight my document. So I have to do things like this. But I'm realizing on my journey at the minute that I have got this almost like self-destructive tendency to put too much on my plate, and then I wonder why I haven't achieved what I've wanted to achieve. And I think it's because I constantly live in this mental headspace of more is better, and I lean towards stress. And I think you can obviously argue that there's definitely good stress in our lives and things that we should lean towards in order to grow now and again. But I seem to do it in every aspect of my life, and I really do struggle to switch off. I struggle to relax. I have to purposely put myself in situations to relax. I really do have to focus on, creating an environment where I've almost allocated time to relax. And this is what I seem to do as well. Like, everything in my life has to be structured. It has to be routined. It has to fit within my current structure. There's no wiggle room. There's everything, if I'm seeing someone in a couple of weeks, it has to be booked in. If I am planning on doing something, it has to be in a calendar. I have to write things down. I have to stick by a schedule for everything in my life. Like, I have a mental schedule, I have a physical schedule, I have a whiteboard, I have calendars, reminders, and I just, there's no element in my life of, I try and make it so, but I struggle to be very sporadic and think freely and allow myself to roam mentally. I'm not doing that enough, I don't think. And having that clear space sometimes to almost, I guess, not think about anything. And I guess that's what caught up with me as well, I think, earlier in the year. So focused on, I guess, other people, noise all the time, filling my time up, burning myself out gradually until it became, again, another instance of a full breakdown, which is what happened. And this has happened to me before. It's happened to me, like I said, through instances when, like when my dad passed away, and it came out through anxiety and panic attacks. And then prior to that, it was instances where mum was in hospital. I thought she was going to die. I thought, I was going to be without parents at, I would have been 19, 20 years old. And and in those situations, I just felt extremely lonely. I felt like I couldn't live my life. I felt like I wasn't doing the things that I almost was meant to be doing. And I grew up extremely quickly, and I feel like I lost a lot of those years as well. It's no one's fault, but it just was, that's just the case. That's just what happened. So yeah, I'm learning a lot about myself. I'm feeling like I've got these destructive tendencies. I put too much on my plate. I tend to forget what makes me happy, and I still put other people's, or I guess other people's needs before myself in the best way possible. I'm always thinking about how I can help others and make everyone else's lives better other than my own. And I really, really, really want to get on top of that. I have made some improvements recently, like I said, you alluded to with the gym situation, my timings. I I'm setting very harsh boundaries, like, and I'm sticking to them, and I've got people keeping me in line with that. That's great. But so I'm glad I'm doing that. But again, I'm really intrigued to see how I can basically continue learning and continue putting things in place to allow me to breathe mentally, to allow me to be more in touch with, I guess, my quiet side, and the side that I think has actually been suppressed all these years. The side that I think I've been putting off because I feel like I've had to put on a persona because of what I've built up throughout the years that people have known me for, and that I've been living by, almost like a bit of an act. And then when I come home, I start to question who I truly am. What am I? Am I that person behind the scenes, or am I actually someone else? Is that, we actually explored this? Like, there is a part, there's potentially someone inside me that's trying to, the true me trying to break through. This face and act that I've put on for so long, and I guess also like protectiveness, and this individual that is consumed by fear and worry and anxiety, but my true self is really trying to push through at the minute, and I can feel it coming. I know that sounds a little bit corny, but I can feel it coming through gradually. I can feel myself changing at the minute, which is, I think, in a good way. But it's going to take some time. I think that these sessions are going to be extremely helpful. I would love to, honestly, I would be intrigued to see if anyone else out there has had these similar sorts of sessions, therapy sessions in general, and they go through these learning journeys. What did you find out about yourself? Like, what became apparent? Like, and again, like, I think that what I'm learning about myself is key, basically, to unlock my future self, the person that I want to take on throughout the rest of my life. Because I certainly do not want to take the individual in the most, the nicest way possible that I've built up in the last few years, because that isn't the true me. It's not the individual that I want to be. I want to be someone that's authentic to myself first and foremost, and can help individuals, but also listen to the internal voice, and act first on the internal voice rather than the one that's here, the one that's making that noise, or the people that are coming in, the external factors. So yeah, it's a bit of a balancing act. I'm realizing things now. I'm very repetitive in what I do. I make good improvements, and then I repeat the same patterns that lead me to burnout, that lead me to emotional fatigue, physical fatigue as well. It all comes out in different forms. So I'm trying to get better. We explored a couple of other things as well, that this idea that I'm leaning quite heavily into. I have been for a long time, and there's reason behind this, leaning quite into like rigidness, conforming almost like to a box, to a day-to-day structure, and this does obviously tie in very clearly to bodybuilding as well. I've built up these walls, these barriers, this routine that keeps me in line, doing the same things one after another, which works to a degree, but it doesn't allow for anything else. It doesn't allow for space. It doesn't allow for any breathing. It doesn't allow for some calm. It only allows for the necessities, the things that have kept me on the straight and narrow for so long. And I think deep down, I don't want to give certain things up. I don't want to change my patterns that I've built up, because I'm a little bit afraid. I am a bit afraid of potentially, things changing, things moving in a direction that I'm perhaps not aware of, where that will take me. Maybe that's going to be maybe it's just the fear of the unknown, but I think I need to lean into that side of a bit more of like the what ifs, the, questioning things, maybe seeing like what's on the other side of that door, rather than sticking to a routine day to day. And just because it's safe, I think that's the issue. I've built up so much comfort, routine, and almost like this feeling of safe in my life that I've missed out on doing the things that are perhaps a little bit ballsy, perhaps that challenge me a little bit, challenge my comfort zones. Now, we do that, I think, as individuals, because obviously safety feels nice. We want to feel comfort. We want to feel secure in our actions and our direction in life as well. But I think that's something I've built up as almost like a protective mechanism, because of everything I've been through, the things that I've gone through at such a young age. And I can imagine other people have done that, have been through a lot of trauma and things like that very early on. Like, I grew up very quickly because I had to. I put defenses in place because I had to very much tell myself that, you quite possibly could be on your own very soon. So you need to basically grow up. You need to get ready and prepare yourself. And during that phase, there was no time for anything else. There was no time for any other thoughts, any other thought other than basically just prepare yourself, and live, basically just live, get by. And I think that what that does to an individual is it really just creates this level of armor and restriction that I've had for so long. And I think I still have that. I think I've carried that throughout my life. And I don't, I worry about so much. I worry about taking steps, taking leaps, look at, for example, that whole idea that I think I've explored on the podcast a bit about, me and Abby haven't moved out yet because we've been toying with the idea of moving down to the coast for many years now. And everything keeps, we get closer, we think about it, we do the searching, and then suddenly we come back to the idea about, well, what if, family members and everyone that's around, what if we, haven't got the friends local, the gym that we got to change, the whole process of moving, the unknown, the location, building, all of this anxiety builds up in me personally. But yet a lot of the time I'm the main driver of these ideas in the first place. So it's like this individual deep inside of me that wants to go and do these different things and allow for that, I guess, like not controlled. I allow for that question, that very much that curiosity. There we go. Curiosity in life, the stepping or dipping your toes in different water, stepping forward, going into a new door, going through a new door, and basically just taking a leap. But I think, you build up such a level of comfort and protective measure that you don't want to take that step. And I've been there for a long time now. And, things like a move down south would be completely, it's a 2-hour move. Yeah, it's not moving different country, but it's a big move, and it's something that I would love to do. Like I'm yearning to do it. I feel the pull to do that. I want to go and create a life somewhere that is brand new, but with my partner. I want to do something that's new for me. I want to take a leap that I've never taken before. I want to go and try something. I want to be a bit fucking sporadic, rather than just thinking, right, play it safe, go and train, stick to the same job, do your routine. And then, end of the week, be happy with what you've done, carry on again. All this routine that's kept me safe and structured throughout my whole life and my whole development, it's done me well up until now. But I'm 27 now. I'm getting that desire that potentially I wasn't allowed to have in my, 10 years ago, 17, 18, 19. I didn't have that space as maybe a late teen usually does to take those leaps, make those big ballsy decisions and jumps. And maybe now it's my calling to do that. So it's a really interesting thing about learning about how, again, I'm very repetitive. I repeat the same pattern. Well, I repeat the same patterns. I repeat the same, I guess, cycles. I have these protective measures over myself, these things that I've built up over so many years to protect myself because of what I thought was going to happen, but because of what did happen as well throughout my life, things I've had to have done. And I've grown up extremely quickly at such a rate where I think I've lost potentially some of the younger years and younger development stages that may have seen me do things and take the leaps that I perhaps haven't until now. And I've built up this level of comfort, security, and stability, which some people might look at and be like, well, that's great. That's a fantastic position to be in. It's like, yeah, it is, but it's deep down, it's not exactly where I want to be. And I know there's more internally. I know there's more question, there's more curiosity about life and, location, themes. I want to explore things. I want to explore more physically, geographically. I want to do different things. I want to take leaps. I want to do things without explaining to people why I'm doing them. I don't want to explain myself all the time. I want to just do things and just say fuck it a bit more. So yeah, I'm trying to get past this very anxious nature of myself that I've built up because of constant worry and this very protective nature. I want to get past that. I want to try and be the person that I think I am deep down. And I think that therapy is going to help me get through that stage. I think what we described it as is we're trying to bridge the person that I am now, the one that's trying to figure things out with the person back then and build, basically link up this very almost, quite odd, like missed 3-4 year gap potentially, and also explore different things. Like maybe my brain does work in a different way. Maybe I am, wired slightly differently, and I'm not gonna label myself. I haven't sought any diagnosis, and I'm not gonna go down that route of labeling because I haven't got the official label. But there might be tendencies of things like autism or ADHD that potentially explains certain things that I do or the way in which I am. And whilst that might be helpful to go and seek the diagnosis, and I might do that at some point down the line, I don't think that's the priority right now, but it helps that might be some explanation, if that makes sense. Just to understand myself. But look, labels, they don't mean really anything. We're all unique individuals. We all have our quirks. We all have the different ways of learning and processing things. And I certainly am someone that processes things differently, and I do things differently. But I just want to go through this process to learn more about myself. And I am, 2.5 hours in, I'm already figuring so much more, and I'm feeling a lot more confident in my actions and the things I'm coming out with now. I'm saying things with a lot more confidence now. I'm telling people no. I'm basically being more upfront about my decisions. I'm speaking with more confidence at the minute, which is good for me. I'm not putting on an act. I'm not basically pandering to other people's needs. I'm not saying yes when I really mean no, and vice versa. And I like that. And I am realizing, I'm putting things in place. I'm putting things like that 8-week schedule to get my units done for level 3, because I know deep down I love helping people. How else can I do that? I can do it through health and fitness. I know personal training is something that I will always want to lean back on. I want to build that up as well as online coaching, but I don't want to do one or the other just solely. I want to have that blend of both of them. So what do I need to do? Just finish the fucking course. Finish it, and then that's it. You've got the step through the door then, and then I can start to define myself in other ways. What other courses do I want to do? Where else do I want to go? What do I want to specialize in? It's just about getting there. I need to stop thinking about, this is your day, this is what you're doing, this is what you're ticking off, and then pissing myself off. And do you know what I end up doing as well? Like, I was talking to my mum about this. I have this deep sense of almost like, I don't know if it's guilt or shame, like that I'm actually, and this applies to a lot of things, and I probably will explore this in other ways across, bodybuilding as well. But I've got this deep sense of shame if I don't do something. I'm always so harsh on myself, or hard on myself. And I think that I do it. Like, for example, if I don't tick off certain things in my day that I have said I'm going to do, I will then say you're doing them the next day, or you're doing them on Saturday. I almost treat myself as like a failure, and then But then what I'll end up doing is, because I haven't done something on one day, I'll then add 2 more things on my next day or 3 days after. And I end up building up this endless cycle of jobs, tasks, and ideas that keep me switched on constantly and exhausted, because I will do 2 things but not one thing. And then that one thing goes into the next day. And then that one thing, like the course, will eventually get done, but then I won't do it again for a series of weeks. And it's very weird. Like, the way in which I look at things is like, I actually can't really tell you. Like, I don't really know how I look at things. It's really difficult to explain. But yeah, I am understanding that I'm not necessarily, I don't process things equally. Well, I don't process things as potentially others would. I know that I'm different in that regard, but I'm getting better with understanding it. That's the most important thing. And that's the important thing that therapy is doing for me right now. And it's allowing me to just have that space for an hour and a half to breathe, which is another thing that I need to do more of. And I think that that's probably one of the biggest takeaways, just having that hour and a half to talk to somebody. And again, this helps, talking to, I know it's a bit ridiculous, I'm just talking to a mic, and it's not ridiculous, but I know that people are going to listen to this, and that brings me comfort knowing that hopefully there's individuals on a similar journey about learning about themselves and learning about how their brain functions, is wired, and are trying to make sense of life as well as they go through it. And that brings me comfort to know that I am potentially helping people. So, but yeah, that's kind of like, that's the snippet of where I'm at after session number 2. And I'm not going to just make these episodes this year about therapy, but I thought it's good, seeing as I've, it was kind of a reason why I hadn't started recording again this year. I thought it was very important that while I'm starting this journey again, that I'm upfront and honest with you about how I am, how I'm feeling, what I'm doing to address these things. And hopefully people can join me on that journey. And, it's extremely important. Therapy is a very useful tool to learning about ourselves and almost understanding how we see the world. And, it's massively helping me. So basically, takeaway here is, if you think you need it, if you think you need to talk to somebody, please do, because I'm already finding in 2 hours, 2.5 hours, it's helped more than anything else ever has. And I feel a lot more confident in my decisions now and the boundaries I am putting in place and the changes I am making. And I'm not perfect, but we are getting there. And that is all we can do. We can just keep moving forward. I would like to make a little segment on here as well, special brand, very close to my heart that I'm a part of, I'm ambassador of, Always Forward. Please go and check them out on Instagram. And the owner, Aaron, myself and him have become very good friends. And it's something that, I know the story of the brand there's a very important message in it, always forward. And that term in itself, that phrase carries throughout everything in life, all of the struggles we're going through. Just keep telling yourself always forward, keep moving forward, regardless of what's happening in life. And, you have these people around you that keep pushing you forward, keep reminding you as well to keep moving forward despite the challenges. And that's what I'm doing right now. And I think I have been doing all my life. And that's why the brand, really did speak to me. So please do go and check them out. I will be having Aaron and, a nice spotlight on the brand at some point down the line, because there's a very important story behind the brand that I really do want to get across on the podcast. And it links directly to the podcast, especially why I'm doing the podcast as well, helping people on a wider scale, talking in the hope that it helps people, always pushing, always moving. And, just basically reiterating that none of us are in this alone. We're all trying to make sense of life, that we're all doing life for the first time. So let's just try and make sense of it together and basically get ourselves through it together as one. And if we can help the lives of individuals along the way, then, that's a goal achieved in itself. That's more than what I could have ever have dreamed of doing. So hopefully the podcast is doing that. And like I said, follow along this journey with me as I learn more about myself in therapy. This year is going to be great. I think I'm going to try and do some more community-led events and episodes as well. A lot more Q&As. And like I said, a few challenges as well, I think, for mental health to try and raise a bit of money. Least I can do really. And like I said, I'd like to get Abby back on, Aaron from Always Forward, do a spotlight on them. Plenty more guests I've got in mind as well. But equally, this is also led by yourself. So please do get in touch if you feel like you want to jump on. Have a space for an hour to talk to me, where we'll just go through that process of talking and seeing where it goes, and hopefully helping each other. We learn about things and help lots more individuals that listen on. All right, that is the spotter for this week. I hope you've enjoyed the episode. Let me know what you thought. Please do reach out. Ask me any questions. If you need to reach out for anything else, please do. And remember, don't suffer in silence. The spotter is all about spotting other individuals through life. And it's the podcast for those who never ask for help but need it. So yeah, take care everyone, and I'll speak to you in the next one.